I was sipping my morning coffee when the email arrived, subject line, Notice of property sale, 114 Maple Drive. My hand froze midair, the warmth of the cup pressing against my palm as if to remind me I was still here, alive, steady, successful. Yet, the words on the screen made my pulse stumble. They were selling my house. My parents' house. My house. The one they'd thrown me out of 10 years ago, shouting words that carved scars I still traced in silence. Leave the house key. Take your suitcase and get out. From the window of my apartment in downtown Chicago, the skyline shimmered like an illusion, tall, proud, untouchable. A little like me. No one here knew the version of me that used to cry herself to sleep in the back seat of a rusted car, clutching a suitcase that smelled of fear and rain. Now my days were polished, crisp silk blouses, gold watch ticking with purpose, voice steady in boardrooms. I'd built everything from the ashes they left me in. But that email, that single, soulless notice, cracked something open. I stared at the sender's name. My mother's lawyer. A bitter laugh escaped me. So they're selling my home now? I whispered. My reflection in the glass smirked back. Not if I have anything to say about it. I was 19 when the word home stopped meaning safety. Back then, 114, Maple Drive was everything I knew. Creaky stairs, chipped yellow paint, and the faint scent of my mother's lavender detergent that clung to the curtains. But beneath all that softness was something colder, rules, expectations, and a love that always came with a ledger. My father believed success came from obedience. My mother measured worth in appearances, grades, posture, and how quietly I could disappear when guests arrived. I wasn't rebellious. I just dreamed differently. I wanted to study design, not accounting. I wanted color, not numbers. The night everything broke, thunder rolled outside, as if the sky itself disapproved. My acceptance letter from the Chicago School of Art trembled in my hands. You're throwing your life away for some childish fantasy, my father spat, slamming his whiskey glass down. We won't fund that nonsense. I'll take loans. I'll work, I said, trying to steady my voice. He laughed. Under my roof? No. Not with my name. Then my mother stepped in, quiet but deadly. Leave the house key. Take your suitcase. And get out. Her voice was flat, final. My throat closed. I remember the chill of the doorknob, the rain soaking through my sneakers, the weight of the suitcase handle biting into my palm. My father didn't even come to the porch. The last sound I heard was the deadbolt turning. I walked to the end of the street before breaking down. That's when Mrs. Walker, our neighbor, the retired teacher who always gave me cookies on report card day, pulled over. She didn't ask questions. She just opened her car door. When she dropped me off at the bus station, she pressed a small brass keychain into my hand, a tiny sunflower charm dangling from it. For when you find your real home, she said softly. I didn't know then that I'd carry that keychain for the rest of my life, or that one day, I'd build a home no one could take from me again. The bus to Chicago felt endless that night, headlights slicing through the rain, the hum of tired strangers filling the silence I couldn't bear. I had $87, a suitcase of clothes, and that sunflower keychain glinting in my palm like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. The first few months were brutal. I slept on a friend's couch, working morning shifts at a coffee shop and taking night classes at the art school that nearly cost me my family. The city was loud, indifferent. Skyscrapers didn't care if you cried. But every time exhaustion pulled me under, I reminded myself, you've already survived being thrown out. Everything after this is building. I met my first mentor by accident. Her name was Julia Harper, an interior designer who came in every morning for a caramel latte, always in heels sharp enough to kill. One day, she saw me sketching on a napkin between orders. She asked to see my portfolio. I didn't have one. But I showed her the scattered drawings on my phone, designs I'd dreamed up when sleep wouldn't come. You've got an eye, she said simply. Come by my studio tomorrow. I could use an assistant. That single sentence changed everything. Julia wasn't easy on me. She expected precision, creativity, and resilience. She taught me the business side of beauty, how to negotiate, how to listen to clients who spoke in riddles, how to make space look like it breathed. I absorbed everything like a sponge, learning to draft, to pitch, to price. The first year was survival. The second was discovery. By the third, I was leading small projects under her supervision. Then came my first big break, a client who loved my designs more than Julia's. It could have caused tension, but Julia just smiled. "You're ready," she said, handing me my own contract folder. "Go make something that belongs to you." I did. I registered my company under the name Sunflower Interiors, a quiet tribute to Mrs. Walker and that little charm. I poured myself into every project, working 16-hour days until the city lights blurred into watercolor. Clients came slowly at first, then faster. Word spread. When I signed the papers to buy my first property, I almost didn't believe it, a small house on the city's edge, with creaky stairs and chipped yellow paint. It looked a lot like Maple Drive. Maybe that's why I bought it. I fixed it up piece by piece, painting the walls in soft creams and golds, letting sunlight fill every corner. It became more than a home. It became my quiet victory. My parents never knew. On social media, I kept things simple. No luxury cars, no grand reveals. Just the occasional busy week at work post. I wanted peace, not pity. But when I received that email, the one saying they were trying to sell my home, I realized peace was no longer enough. It was time they saw who I'd become. I didn't call them. I didn't reply to the lawyer's email. Instead, I let curiosity and maybe a little poetic justice guide me. The following Saturday, I drove out to Maple Drive. The closer I got, the tighter my chest felt. The neighborhood hadn't changed much. The same trimmed lawns, the same gossiping mailboxes, the same old oak tree that used to shade my childhood bike. But 114 Maple Drive looked smaller now. Or maybe I'd just grown too big for it. Two cars sat in the driveway, my father's old Buick and a silver sedan I didn't recognize. Through the front window, I saw them. My mother fussing with papers, my father talking animatedly to a real estate agent. I parked across the street and stepped out, heels clicking against the pavement, silk coat fluttering in the autumn breeze. When I opened the gate, their heads turned. My father froze mid-sentence. My mother's lips parted in disbelief. "Madison," she breathed, her voice cracking my name like an unfamiliar word. "Hi, Mom," I said evenly, stepping inside. "I heard you're selling the house." The realtor glanced between us, confused. "Oh, are you the buyer Ms. Lawson mentioned?" I smiled faintly. "Something like that." My father's face darkened. "You have no business here." "Funny," I said, scanning the walls. "Last I checked, I own this place." Silence. The realtor blinked. "I'm sorry, you what?" I reached into my bag and slid a folder onto the table. Property deed. Purchased 3 years ago. Legally transferred. Titles in my name. Guess your client didn't mention that, huh? My mother's hand trembled over the stack of unsigned documents. "You bought it back?" I met her eyes. "No." I reclaimed it. The room thickened with tension. My father's voice dropped to a low growl. "You did this to spite us." I laughed softly. "No, Dad. I did this because I had nowhere else to go when you threw me out. This house was supposed to be my punishment. Turns out, it became my reminder." I let the silence stretch. My heels echoed as I walked through the rooms, my fingers tracing the edges of the walls I'd once painted with childish dreams. Every photo frame, every scratch in the floorboards whispered memories of a girl who wasn't wanted and the woman she'd become. When I turned back, the realtor was quietly excusing herself. My parents stood frozen in the middle of what was once their kingdom, and now mine. "You built this life?" my mother asked, her voice barely holding together. "Yes. Every inch of it. I own a design firm now, Sunflower Interiors. Maybe you've heard of it. We handle luxury properties downtown." Her eyes widened. My father's jaw tightened. "You should have called." "We could have." "Helped me." I cut in gently. "You already did. You taught me exactly who I didn't want to become." For a moment, the only sound was the wind through the cracked window. Then I set my coffee cup on the counter, the one that used to hold my mother's china. I'm not here to fight, I said quietly. But this home isn't for sale. Not now. Not ever. My father looked away, jaw clenched. My mother swallowed hard, her voice softening into something fragile. We didn't know, Madison. We thought you were still struggling. I smiled, not cruelly but honestly. I was. Just not in the way you think. I took a slow breath, letting the moment sink in. The balance had shifted. The daughter they'd cast out now stood in front of them, not as a victim, but as the woman who owned the ground beneath their feet. They stood there like strangers in a museum, surrounded by relics of a life they no longer controlled. My father had aged, the proud lines on his face now softened by regret. My mother's composure cracked under the weight of silence. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. You said once that I'd never make it without you, that I'd come crawling back. My father didn't respond. His eyes dropped to the floor. Well, I continued, here I am. Not crawling, standing. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. We didn't mean to hurt you. We just didn't want you to waste your life. By choosing my own path, I asked. By not living under your control? She looked away. You have every right to hate us. I don't hate you, I said softly. But I can't pretend it didn't happen. I slept in bus stations, Mom. I worked 3 jobs while you were hosting dinner parties. You don't get to rewrite that. My father cleared his throat. We were wrong. Maybe we didn't understand what you needed. I took a step closer. No, you understood. You just didn't care to accept it. The words hung heavy between us. Then I inhaled deeply, choosing calm over anger. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my tone steady. You're not selling this house. It's mine. But if you really need a place to stay, you can. My mother blinked, startled. You'd let us stay here? Under one condition, I said firmly. No more lies. No more guilt trips. You treat this place, and me, with respect. You fix what you break. You contribute. You show up. My father scoffed. You're setting terms? Yes, I said. Because for once, I'm not the child you can order around. I'm the woman who built everything you see. I watched his pride deflate, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years, humility. And there's one more thing, I added. If you stay, you'll each do something you've always avoided, something that actually means growth. My mother frowned. What do you mean? Mom, you're going to finish the nursing program you dropped when I was little. You always said it was your dream. It's not too late. Her eyes widened. Madison. And Dad, I said, turning to him. You're going to apologize to me, to Mom, and maybe to yourself. You've carried too much anger for too long. He said nothing, but his shoulders sank a little. This isn't about revenge, I said, my voice softening. It's about breaking the pattern. I'm offering you a chance to live differently. But if you can't respect that, then you'll need to find somewhere else. For a long moment, no one spoke. The tension in the room shifted, fragile but real. My mother nodded slowly, tears glistening. My father looked at me, eyes red, and whispered, All right. For the first time, I believed him. The following weeks felt surreal. The house that once echoed with shouting and slammed doors now hummed with quiet attempts at peace. My parents stayed, awkwardly at first, like guests in a museum they'd once owned. But slowly, something began to shift. My mother enrolled in night classes at the community college. I'd catch her reading anatomy textbooks at the kitchen table, glasses sliding down her nose, a faint smile curving her lips. Sometimes she'd ask my opinion on color palettes for her notes, and for the first time, we'd talk without judgment. My father spent most mornings fixing things around the house. Squeaky hinges, leaky faucets, the old mailbox that had rusted over. One afternoon, I found him standing outside, holding the sunflower keychain I'd left on the counter. Yours, he asked quietly. I nodded. Mrs. Walker gave it to me the night you told me to leave. He turned it in his hand, the charm glinting in the sunlight. She always said you had a gift. Guess she was right. I didn't respond. The silence between us felt different now, not cold, not cruel, Just honest. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the bitterness that once lived in these walls faded. My mother started volunteering at a clinic. My father joined a support group for small business owners. They were changing, not perfectly, not all at once, but genuinely. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, my mother reached for my hand. "I know sorry doesn't erase it," she said softly, "but I am." I squeezed her fingers. "I know." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. That night, I hung the sunflower keychain by the front door. It swayed gently, catching the last rays of light. Mrs. Walker's words echoed in my mind, "For when you find your real home." I smiled. Because I had. Not the one I was thrown out of. Not the one I bought back. But the one I built inside myself. As the city lights flickered on in the distance, I whispered into the quiet. They told me to leave my house once. Now I decide who gets to walk through its doors.